Good evening, everyone. At the outset, let me thank One Amala Clinic for this opportunity to present this session on geriatrics in One Amala Clinics. And thank you, Bodhi sir, for that introduction. This is first among the many sessions, talks, workshops that the Division of Geriatrics and Gerontology is planning to in our attempt to become a age-friendly health system and to increase the awareness about geriatrics among the healthcare workers, among patients, among students. So today's session is on geriatrics and gerontology. How does it matter to me? The session will provide an overview of geriatric care and an introduction to the concept of age-friendly health system. So it's just a primer on what age-friendly AMLA means. Populations are getting older, and you can see that the world is becoming more and more blue, with the percentage of older adults or the elderly population increasing, and it will become more dark blue by the year 2050, when the countries will have the elderly population more than 30% or more. Population aging is also happening quickly. France took about 150 years to double the elderly population from 10% to 20%. Brazil took only 25 years, and India will take only 35 years. Now it is around 10% in 2020, and by 2055, it will be about 20% of the total population, which is going to be a huge number. It's also said as the silver tsunami. People are living longer. Earlier, when it was the life expectancy was around 60, now they are living 20 years more. And how these extra 20 years can be spent? They might spend it to pursue their hobbies. They might spend it for newer education, for digital technology, but it all depends on health. And health in older age is not random. Yes, genetics just does play a role, but it also depends on who we are, where we live, our health behavior, the food we take, our access to healthcare. So it is not random, and it is not same for everyone. And there is no typical older person. You would recognize the gentleman in the middle, and he is 70 plus. You can see the pictures in the slide. Each picture is unique. They have a different expression, they have a different build, they have a different environment. So there is no typical older person. So the same size will not fit all. WHO has recognized the priority areas for action, and one of them is to align health systems to the older population they now serve. You align the health system by shifting the care focus from managing diseases to optimizing what people can do, and develop the health workforce to face the silver tsunami. Place the person at the center. So it is person-centered care than disease-centered care. And to invest in healthy aging so that the older people can live lives with freedom that previous generation could never have imagined. Aging is not a distinct phase of life. It is said to be a life course. It's a continuum of life course. It is not disconnected from the previous life stages. So you are born, you go through the pediatric age, you have become an adult, you become an older adult. So it's a continuum. It's not that at 60 years you suddenly become an older adult. It's a continuum of that life course. And healthy aging, the process of developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in older age. Functional ability is what the person is able to do. And the year 2021 to 2030, the decade is called as the UN Decade of Healthy Aging, which aims to create a generation devoid of ageism and create an environment which is equal and friendly for all ages, that is age-friendly. Now, coming to the topic proper, geriatrics is the care and treatment of older adults. The care and treatment of older adults, and gerontology is the scientific study of the aging process. And as it's known that we all would definitely age with each day, it's important that we know the basics of gerontology. because we need to know what's happening to us. And geriatrics is also called as medical gerontology. It is the care and treatment of the older adults. The father of geriatrics, Dr. Ignazio Nasher, coined the term geriatrics from geras meaning old age and iatricos relating to the physician. He said that geriatrics should be seen as important as pediatrics. So it should be a separate term for the care of older persons to emphasize the necessity of considering senility and its disease apart from maturity and to assign it a separate place in medicine. So pediatrics and geriatrics are two extremes of the same life course, and they are both unique because of the uniqueness of the population that they cater to. Who is an older adult? It's my grandparents and parents now. It's me in the next 30 to 40 years. So I need to know what happens when I age, even as an individual, more so as a healthcare provider. How is geriatric care different? The clinician has to spend more time with the older adult who has many things to say beyond obvious clinical science. So listen, they have many things to say. They might not give you the specific presenting complaints. They will have, so the typical geriatric patient is the 75-year-old Amachi who comes to your OP and tells you that she has pain there, she has pain here, she has pain from foot to head, and you are left puzzled because you can't make out based on the medical learning that you had. Another scenario would be a patient with COPD, hypertension, diabetes, which is well controlled, and she has done an executive health checkup. We have done all the investigations, X-ray, ECG, blood test, everything, and everything is just perfect. But she tells you, Doctor, I'm feeling low, I'm forgetful, I want to be more energetic. And the doctor says that everything is perfect. Then what is my problem? That's where the doctor and the patient get stuck. Clinical signs are mostly unusual and atypical. Clinical presentation is a rule rather than exception. We are taught that fever with altered sensorium, you should always think of neuro infection. And the third semester medical student will be perplexed to find that this patient who had fever with altered sensorium has a diagnosis of urinary tract infection rather than a neuro infection, because it was delirium due to urinary tract infection. So the way the elderly presents is also atypical. Clinicians must think beyond the conventional learning of disease or organ-specific diseases or symptoms. So you'll have to break all the conventions of medical learning to be able to provide good geriatric care, because a typical presentation is the rule. Because challenge is the needs of older adults with multiple chronic conditions vary. It is not that one size fits all. It doesn't work that way. In geriatrics, what we teach is 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2. 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2. So what made sense earlier may not make sense now. Priorities change. Understanding the needs of the older adults helps you to deliver the quality of care that they are expecting, rather than the kind of care you think they might want. So it's not what you think they might want, but what they want. So it is the person, it is the patient who is at the center of care, who is the driver. So what matters to the patient is the driving force in giving geriatric care than what you think they might want. So what does the older adults want? This is a survey that was done to find out what the older adults want. And they said, we don't want the doctor to tell us that it's all because of our age. ഈ പ്രശ്നങ്ങളെല്ലാം പ്രായത്തിൻ്റെതാണ് അമ്മച്ചി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമുക്ക് കേൾക്കണമെന്നില്ല. So they want an answer from you to for their problems, for their fatigue, for their kshinam, and we are left perplexed because we don't have a test which tells us a reason for their fatigue. So just make sure, put yourselves in that shoes, because you might need a cardiologist, you might not need a neurologist, because you might not have a stroke, you might not develop MI, but you will definitely age. I want to feel as if you are talking to me as an individual with my specific needs. So the 75-year-old who is lying before you is 75 years of experience. He has an individuality. He has his own needs. He has seen world. നിന്നെക്കാട്ടിലും കൂടുതൽ ഓണം ഉണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന് നമ്മളെ ഒരു 95% പേരോടെങ്കിലും പറയാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരാളാണ് മുന്നിൽ കിടക്കുന്നത്. So don't talk to me as if all older persons are alike. We want interaction with the providers. I want to talk to my doctor, or I want my doctor to talk to me. We want providers to be informed, positive, encouraging, and engaged. We want them to be respectful. Be personal. Are you? Get to know me and don't be rushed. Then it's easier for me to share. Because I will open up only if you are ready to hear. Now, you can just think of the expressions that you had with the older patients that you had in your wards. Some of the disinterested thoughts. അവരുള്ളിൽ ഇതാണ് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത് നമ്മളോട് തുറന്ന് പറഞ്ഞില്ലെങ്കിൽ. Some of the age-related changes that we have to be mindful of are that mind. They have decreased reaction times. There's an increased time to recall or learn new things. A home. ഈ അടുത്തിറങ്ങിയ ഒരു പടമാണ്. A beautiful movie which deals with the multiple social problems that an elderly faces. And there he tries to learn how to use a smartphone. So they have decreased reaction time. So when you ask a question, wait for the response. Don't be in a hurry. They will have decreased vision. They will have decreased hearing. So when you talk to an elderly person who is hard of hearing, they might not have understood what you have asked them. And because you have not understood that the patient is having a hearing problem, you might think that the patient is disoriented. It has happened. It happens every day in our rounds. So difficulty hearing, so the response to a hard of hearing person is not to shout. We'll be coming to that. They might have decreased physical strength. These are the 10 things we can do right now to make our care more age-friendly. Don't rush. Whenever, wherever you talk to an older person, ബസ്സിലാണെങ്കിൽ പോലും വഴിയിൽ വെച്ചാണെങ്കിലും എവിടെ വെച്ചാണെങ്കിലും, that's what age-friendly care is about. Don't rush. Avoid rapid-fire questioning, torrents of information, and interrupting. There's something called the golden minute, the first minute of your consultation. So it's called the golden minute in communication. That might give you a load of information than the rapid fire questioning that you do from what we have learned in our medical school. Use simple and common language. Ask if clarification is needed. Talk slowly and clearly in a normal tone. Shouting or speaking in a raised voice actually distorts language sounds and can give the impression of anger. കാരണം when we start talking, bystander അപ്പം തന്നെ പറയും അമ്മച്ചിക്ക് ചെവി കേൾക്കില്ല കേട്ടോ. And the next response that we have is to shout at the patient. അപ്പൊ അമ്മച്ചി വിചാരിക്കുന്നത് ഈ ചെക്കൻ എന്തിനാ എൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് ചാടുന്നതെന്ന്. Because they might feel that ഇയാൾ എൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് എന്തിനാ ചാടുന്നത്, ഞാൻ വല്ലതും ചെയ്തു. See, I am here with a problem and I am admitted with this and these problems, and I have a doctor who is coming and shouting at me. This is what they feel. So talk slowly and clearly in a normal tone. And always when you talk to an elderly, make it face to face. They lip read and get it. Now, because of COVID, we have started wearing masks, and I have started seeing that most of my patients are not getting me. And that's because they used to lip read me before, about 2 years back. And now, because there's a mask, there is a communication problem. So you have to adjust your tone to a level wherein the patient picks up what you're telling and then continue in that tone. It's not about shouting. Eliminate background noise. It's very important. നമ്മുടെ OPD side, Amala is a place where always something or the other is being built. So it's always noisy, and it's very difficult for an elderly patient to hear when there's a background noise. Remove trip hazards. Offer assistance with sitting or standing as needed. Make sure water is available and offered. Make sure there's adequate lighting, including sufficient light on your face during a conversation. Ensure that printed material has a large font, simple wording. 30 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇവിടെ വരുമ്പോൾ ലാബ് എവിടാന്ന് എനിക്കറിയണമെങ്കിൽ ലാബ് എന്നുള്ള ആ ആരോ ഇട്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ബോർഡ് എനിക്ക് വായിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന രീതിയിൽ അത്രയും വലിപ്പത്തിൽ എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവണം. So this patient thus requires a comprehensive geriatric assessment, and this never comes in your executive checkup. That's why ക്ഷീണം എന്തുകൊണ്ടെന്ന് അറിയാൻ വന്ന 75-കാരന്റെ എല്ലാ ടെസ്റ്റുകളും നോർമലായിട്ടും അയാളുടെ ക്ഷീണത്തിന് മാത്രം ഒരു ഉത്തരം കിട്ടാതെ പോകുന്നു. So that's when the comprehensive geriatric assessment comes in. It is a physical examination. It's inquiry into the social and environmental factors, the functional status, mobility and balance, psychological and mental aspect, medication review, which is very important. And you go through all this in comprehensive geriatric assessment and create a problem list and create a personalized care plan, then intervene. After that, you intervene. It's not that you have a problem, you solve that. It is all interconnected. And you have a regular planned review. It's a total plan for a single patient based on what he wants. Age-friendly Amala is not a program, but it is a shift in how we provide care for the older adults. Every member of the Amala family is part of this. So we can't have, it won't work if we have many geriatricians around. It's not going to work because every one of us is going to have an interaction with an older adult. So it is important to change how we provide care for the older adults than to engage one more specialty. We already have a lot of specialties and we are having a problem of specialties here. So the security chairman at the gate to the CMC Chechi who bids goodbye to the patient after discharge will be part of this age-friendly Amala initiative. So this is the second part of our talk, that is the age-friendly health system. These are the 5 M's of geriatrics. Matters most, or what matters most to the patient: mind, mobility, medications, and multi-complexity. Matters most, mind, mobility, medications, and multi-complexity. It is called the 4 M's framework. With multi-complexity coming in, it becomes the 5 M's. What matters? Know and align care with each older adult's specific health outcome goals and care preferences, including but not limited to end-of-life care and across settings of care. So any interaction with the patient should look into what matters to the patient, what the patient wants. Medication. If medication is necessary, make sure that you may use age-friendly medications. That does not interfere with what matters to the older adults, that does not interfere with his mobility, and that does not interfere with mentation. Mentation. Prevent, identify, treat, and manage dementia, delirium, and depression across settings of. So it's not confined to the medical ward. It is confined, it has to be done in every ward where an older adult is. Mobility. Ensure that older adults move safely every day in order to maintain function and do what matters. So you can see that all these are interconnected. So this is a framework which helps you to become an age-friendly health system. There are a lot of good reasons to use 4M framework because it focuses on the person and not the disease. Irrespective of whether it is a hyponatremic encephalopathy or it's a UTI or an aspiration pneumonia, it focuses on the person and it focuses on the quality of life. It focuses on not more treatment or acute care transfers. It focuses on the quality of life. An age-friendly health system is one where every adult gets the best care possible, experiences no healthcare related harms, and is satisfied with the healthcare they receive. Value is optimized for everyone. So 4M starts with what matters. What matters is the driver, and then goes to medications, mobility, and mentation. Mentation has dementia, delirium, and depression. What matters? Now change the conversation from what is the matter. This is how we usually start our conversation with our patient. To what matters to you. So what matters most? So these are the 3 things, overlapping things, which is life and living. What gives us joy, happiness, meaning in life? Health. It's our ongoing health concerns and conditions. And health care, treatment and care of disease, illness. So this is only one of the areas of what matters to the patient. The other 2 areas have also got to be looked into to make sure that you don't do more harm to the patient So explore life context, priorities, preferences. ഇത് ഈ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കണം എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. വാട്ട് ഈസ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് ടു യു? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താണ് സന്തോഷം നൽകുന്നത്? It might look odd because we are now not used to asking these questions. What do you worry about or most? Or what are some goals you hope to achieve before your next birthday? These are taken from the Western context, but it is the same everywhere. What else would make tomorrow a really great day? What else would you like us to know about you? What is the one thing about your healthcare you most want to focus on? Or if we could change one thing in your health or healthcare, what would it be? So once I had this 75-year-old pharmacist who was being treated by our oncology team. And during one of the consultations, what she told me was, എനിക്ക് കുത്തുകൊള്ളാൻ പറ്റില്ല, നിങ്ങൾ ഈ ആവശ്യമില്ലാത്ത ടെസ്റ്റുകളൊന്നും ചെയ്യണ്ട. So that is what matters to her. And that gives us an opportunity to think whether our investigating the sodium 129 to 131, does it make a difference? It makes a difference to our health, maybe our healthcare management or what the treatment of hypertension that we learn, but the patient doesn't want it. So it's important to find out what matters to them, what she wants. And think of yourself getting those pricks every day in the morning at 5 o'clock for 15 days of a month for blood investigations. What concerns you most when you think about your health and healthcare? What are your fears? What things about your healthcare do you think aren't helping you? ഈ മരുന്നുകൾ ഇത്രയും മരുന്നൊന്നും കഴിച്ചിട്ട് എനിക്കൊരു ഗുണമുള്ളതായിട്ട് തോന്നുന്നില്ല എന്നവർ പറയുമ്പോൾ അതിന് കാര്യമുണ്ട് അല്ലെ? ഇത്രയും ഗുളികകൾ. Think of yourselves having 15 medications to take each day, 15 different medications at different doses. So sometimes when you write out those prescriptions, imagine yourselves in that space about 20 years from now. Is there anyone who should be part of this conversation? So, this is another movie which has brought out a cranky woman. We should not use that word cranky because that's ageistic. That is supposed to be ageistic. But you could see the transition in her when she found out what matters to her. She was having depression because of the multifactorial things. And when she found out what matters to her, her total outlook to the life changed. She had the bucket list. And so evidence-based disease-centric care versus patient-centered care. Now, age-friendly care is based on patient-centered care. Include me. So you have to find out where the person is now. The decision making and the care of the older adults with multiple chronic conditions will see whether the disease specific evidence-based guidelines are applicable to this patient. Maybe a patient who has fewer conditions, who is fit and functional. So functional status becomes important. Who has about more than 10 years of life expectancy. Maybe the disease-based guidelines as consistent patient preferences may be good. But in a patient who has maybe less than 2 years of life expectancy, who has advanced cancer, end-stage disease, dementia, the evidence-based guidelines doesn't hold good. So de-escalate treatments. Palliative care. Palliative care is, so sometimes geriatric care is taken to be synonymous with palliative care. No, there is a palliative care component to geriatric care. But palliative care is what you reduce suffering. There is suffering in every healthcare aspect. It's not only in cancer. Every person who has a healthcare problem is suffering. So palliative care means you try to do things to reduce suffering. For that, you should know what matters to the patient. So it's in between. When you have an increasing severity of conditions, you have multiple comorbidities, you have impaired function, there's a worsening of the functional status. At this point, maybe this care planning, the patient priority aligned care becomes important. The conversations of what matters, what would you like to have from the medical team? How much should I go? Now what happens is it's left to the poor bystander who doesn't know anything about the patient or what the patient wants. And the patient is not in a situation in which he could tell you that don't intubate me. So this helps in making a plan, something called the advanced medical directive. So the patient, so the medical will, the patient can't decide how much medical assistance he would like to have, or how would he like to die, or how he would like to plan his death. This is one of the interesting ways of putting up my story. It could be part of our case sheet because it will tell the care team, every member of the team, what or who is lying in front of you. It is not the 75-year-old 113 hyponatremia, but it is someone who has so many aspirations, who has had so many things which he did in the past, and it will help to identify what matters to the patient. And end of life care is also part of the geriatric care. And when death is inevitable, the way of dying is important. That's where we discussed about the advanced medical directive. So if a patient wants to die a natural death, sure enough, he needs to be given that opportunity rather than dying with lots of tubes put into your body and with no one around. Summary is an ongoing conversation. The conversation skills are developed with practice. And I spend more time with what matters because it is the core of the AIDS-friendly health. The second one is medications, polypharmacy. We have already discussed that there are 15 medications for a patient with hypertension, diabetes, CAD, CKD, CLD, COPD. From 4 to 5 specialists, which they have with 5 prescriptions, and they might be taking the same medication with the different name. They might be taking 2 PPIs. They might be taking antiplatelets from the nephrologist as well as from the cardiologist. So how many is too many? So polypharmacy is defined as more than 5 medications or more than 12 doses a day. And it increases risk of adverse events. This is the Western literature saying that 42% of the hospitalized patients have polypharmacy. We have our own data from Amala. Dr. Anaka, who is an intern now, she did a study on polypharmacy, and it was 51% in patients who were having outpatient prescriptions with polypharmacy and 92% in inpatients, and that was in the medical wards. Medical wards alone, not the ICU. There lies the importance of medication reconciliation. How do you do that? You get hold of the prescriptions, but more than the prescriptions, you get hold of the cover, the medication box. Usually it's a cover. അമ്മച്ചിയുടെ ഇത് കവർ ഉണ്ടാവും. അതിനകത്ത് കാർഡിയോളജിന്റെ മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും, നെഫ്രോളജിന്റെ മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും, പൾമണോളജിന്റെ മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും, അടുത്ത ഹെൽത്ത് സെന്ററിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടിയ മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും, കഴിഞ്ഞ തലവേദന വന്നപ്പോൾ വാങ്ങിച്ച മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും, അടുത്ത ആയുർവേദത്തിൽ കഴിച്ച വൈദ്യരെ മരുന്നുണ്ടാവും. And all these things are going into the patient, and it is not the prescription alone. So it is the best possible medication history that will help you. So medication reconciliation, and Amala has gone one step ahead. Even before we start planning, our quality team has come with the medication reconciliation form for 2 weeks back, and I hope you would have seen this in our wards and ICUs. So this requires some time. It should include every drug that the patient is taking, and the word taking is important because the prescription might have the drug, but the patient might not be taking that. That doctor എഴുതിയിരുന്നു സാറേ, ഞാൻ 2 ദിവസം കഴിച്ച് പിന്നെ നിർത്തി. So it's important what are the drugs that actually goes into the patient. Multiple medications, reduced homeostatic mechanism, frailty, and acute illness. So such a patient ending up for a surgery, that's the place where we will have problems. Because when they have an acute problem with so many medications, there are medications which have to be stopped when for one example would be ACE inhibitors. In a patient who is having a diarrhea, it has to be stopped, otherwise it might precipitate an acute kidney injury. So knowing these things, when to stop what, is also part of managing polypharmacy. We have something called the Beers criteria, which gives you drugs which have to be avoided, which have drug-drug interactions, which are the drugs to be cautious about, and it lists out the potentially inappropriate medication. Now, the physician who treats it's his decision to start a drug or not. But when you align this with your drug addicts, with the Beers criteria, you might be able to get drugs which are potentially inappropriate. For example, a patient with CAD, heart failure, who is on diuretics, Lasix, who is on nitrates for his angina, and who was detected to have BPH recently, and he goes to the urologist and he might be started on tamsulosin. Now, these are drugs which can cause postural hypotension, and all these 3 drugs together will result in causing postural. And what happens is, because of his BPH, he would have been going to the bathroom 3 or 4 times at night. And after the starting of Tamsulosin, about the second or third day, he goes to the bathroom for having, for urinating, and he has a fall because of all. And where does he land? He lands in the orthopedics department because of fracture neck of femur. So fall is a geriatric giant. And usually when a patient falls, look at the drugs. There will be something which is causing the drug. And this Beer's list will help you to identify those drugs and will help you in de-prescribing. So we have learned how to prescribe. Now we have to learn how to de-prescribe, how to stop drugs, how to taper off drugs. So it gives you these potentially inappropriate medications, and there are the anticholinergics, antithrombotics, which need to be avoided, and they give you the drug disease list in which disease, which has in delirium, what are the drugs to be avoided, that anticholinergics, antipsychotics, benzodiazepines, etc. So strategies are, or as we said, the brown bag visit, the checklist, align medication regimen to what matters. So addressing polypharmacy, stop, start, that's another way of doing it. Beer's criteria, high risk medication. Any drug with anticholinergic activity can precipitate delirium. Benzodiazepines. Every decreased sleep doesn't require a benzodiazepine. Try to find out why he has a decreased sleep. He might be depressed. Tricyclic antidepressants. High alert patients, patients with impaired cognition, impaired renal function, who have falls. So anyone who has a fall, think why he fell. Okay. So PPIs, or the proton pump inhibitors. About 70% of prescriptions have this proton pump inhibitor without any apparent indication. And the patient also doesn't stop. Sareda, gas. So it's difficult to stop. But once this conversation to stop starts, that's when you will be able to stop it, because it is not a safe drug. Up to 50% of hospitalized patients sent out with PPIs. The long-term use is indicated only when erosive esophagitis, Barrett's esophagitis, gastrinoma, refractory reflex. The adverse effects that can cause hip fractures, atrophic gastritis, dementia, CKD. There was a recent study which was published, which was showing that acute kidney injury or acute on chronic kidney injury could be caused because of PPIs. Now we come to the third one, mentation. Dementia, delirium, depression. These are the 3 Ds which we have to screen for. Delirium is a medical emergency. So there are various factors which predispose a patient to delirium and which precipitate. An elderly patient who has with BP, who has a urinary retention, may come to the casualty with altered sensorium. So urinary retention is a precipitating factor. And once you relieve the precipitating factor, this delirium will also resolve. But it is important to identify that this is delirium. So I will give you some codes, which usually the bystanders tell you, which tells you to identify delirium. After her hip operation, my mother became very confused and aggressive. She kept pulling out her drip and shouting at the nurses. It was a shock, as she is usually so polite. So it can be very frightening for the bystanders, because suddenly his mother, who was a very polite lady, so identify possibly this patient is having delirium. This is called hyperactive delirium. Hyperactive delirium is always identified because she's making a lot of noise. But the other aspect, hypoactive delirium, that is more dangerous. So we can often tell that my father is getting a UTI because he starts to get slower, becomes quiet and withdrawn. He also sleeps much more. We were told the slowness, quietness and withdrawal are actually delirium symptoms that have happened and as a result of a urinary tract. So UTI was the precipitating factor, and he might be having some predisposing factor for developing delirium. My wife has mild dementia, but we were managing fine at home. She used to recognize most of our neighbors and friends. But when she was in hospital, though, she didn't even recognize me or our daughter. So this is again a stressful situation for the bystander. The bystander also needs to be told what delirium is. We have to use the word delirium. And in Malayalam, so we use it as delirium. The nurses told me that my grandmother has been up all night wandering around the ward and trying to leave. We face this. It's not in the medical ward alone. It's in every ward that you have these patients running around. However, when I visit her on ward in the daytime, she's nice and quiet and seems okay. Bystanders ചിലപ്പോൾ പറയണം, സാർ ഈ കാണുന്ന ആളൊന്നും അല്ല, ഒരു വൈകുന്നേരം 6 മണിയൊക്കെ ആകുമ്പോൾ കാണണം,
ഇതെല്ലാം വലിച്ചെറിയുക, എല്ലാം ചീത്ത പറയുക, രൂപങ്ങൾ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ഒരുമാതിരി വട്ടി പിടിച്ച കണക്ക്. So if you have this listening ears, you will suddenly see, yes, this is delirium. There is sundowning phenomenon. My father became very confused. He was sleepy at times and agitated. So you will have mixed delirium as well, hypo and hyperactive. And the nurses gave him medication to control symptoms. Delirium is preventable. The first thing is to identify delirium, because once you identify it, reorientation of the patient, hydrating the patient, stimulating the mind, giving him nice sleep. Don't go on poking that patient who is delirious at night for your sodium potassium. Give him sleep. Make sure that he has his hearing aid, he has his spectacles, he's well hydrated, he's having his food. How can I help the person with delirium? This is important. Speak clearly and use fewer words. ഇപ്പൊ അച്ഛാ പേരെന്താ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചിട്ട് just wait and wait for the response. Don't argue with the patient. Comfort them. They may be confused or frightened. So tell them that you are there to help and to keep them safe. Tell them where they are. Make sure they are wearing their aids. Because കാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുള്ള ഒരാള്, and delirium is very common in the COVID ICU, because when what they see are people who are clad in these PP kits, and they might even think that ഈ ലോകം കഴിഞ്ഞ് അടുത്ത ലോകത്ത് എത്തി. Okay, like their glasses, hearing aids or dentures, keep the area around them calm and soothing. So an ICU patient who has delirium, with those ringing bells, those alarms, it can be very distressing and it will only worsen delirium. Use a clock so that they are oriented to the time. Play their favorite music maybe. Stop the TV if it is making some background noise. So make sure that the surrounding is calm. Now, delirium, what not to do. So we have talked about what to do and what not to do. Don't think delirium is a benign condition. Don't order tests you don't need. So once you diagnose delirium, if there are no focal deficits or focal neurological signs, maybe CT head is not required. Don't keep waking patients up at night. Don't laugh at patients who have delirium. It might make them frustrated. Don't use antipsychotics unless all other interventions have failed. Antipsychotics are indicated only when the patient becomes a threat to himself or to the caretakers. Don't stick tubes that patients don't need, because every tube that you put in is another precipitating factor. So delirium is a medical emergency. Positive delirium screen, hypoactive subtype, the patient is going into acute brain failure. Delirium is acute brain failure. Looking for underlying causes, stat, orientation and ambulation forthrightly, family education and environment. This is how delirium should be dealt with, because it is a medical emergency. Now we come to mobility. Mobilize your patients, because benefits are achieved with even small amounts of it. Mobilization, maybe maybe just moving their limbs, that itself, because immobility has many hazards. Mobility results in sarcopenia. They lose the muscle mass. So 1 week of hospitalization with immobilization can itself bring down the functional status of the patient. അപ്പം തന്നെ ഈ അഡ്മിറ്റ് ആവുന്നവർ അച്ഛൻ എല്ലാം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നതാണ്. ഇപ്പൊ പക്ഷെ തന്നെ ഒന്നും ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, തന്നെ കുളിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. So it has brought out the functional status. So make sure that your patients are mobile. Onset of complications can occur even within 24 hours of bed rest. Hazards of immobility can cause reflux. It can cause weakness, muscle atrophy, sarcopenia, which is being seen as one of the modern geriatric giants, can cause depression, it can cause orthostatic hypertension. Simple mobility assessments, what the patient can do. Based on that, you plan the mobility. Plan the mobility based on whether the patient is able to ambulate, or if the patient can be shifted to chair. Make sure that he sits up in the chair and has food. That could be, so mobilize your patients at least 3 times a day. So there needs to be a mobility care plan for your older patient, irrespective of which ward he is admitted or for what he is admitted. Even in the critical care setup, mobilization is possible. Leaking urine, urinary incontinence, is something you will get only if you probe into the elderly. Urinary incontinence. But they get used to it. And it is not a normal part of aging. You have to identify the type of urinary incontinence, and maybe with some changes in their lifestyle, or maybe the patient is taking Lasix at 8 p.m. Maybe for cardiac failure, and that could be causing this nocturia. And what happens is with this nocturia, the patient has decreased sleep, and decreased sleep that hinders her activity in the morning, that brings down her functional status. So these are simple things which, when identified, can be corrected. You need to have a care plan. You have the views of the patient and carers. You have the views of the different professionals, because it is a teamwork. It is a teamwork. It cannot be done by a single person. You identify the goals. You have an action plan. You have plans for end of life if the patient has an advanced disease. You have the medical history. So these together forms the care plan. How do you go about the forums framework in the hospital? Forums with the multi-complexity being 5. Know about the forums of each older adult. Ask what matters and document what matters. Review high-risk medication use. Screen for delirium at least every 12 hours. Screen for delirium at least every 12 hours. Screen for mobility. You do this, and then you incorporate the plan of care. Align the care with what matters. De-prescribe. Every admission is an opportunity to reduce drugs. Every admission is an opportunity to reduce drugs. Do not prescribe high-risk medication. Identify the high-risk medications. Maybe it's a benzodiazepine. It might be an SSRI. Ensure sufficient oral hydration. Orient the older adults to time, place, and situation. Ensure older adults have their personal sensory adaptive equipment. Hearing aid Kannadi undo nokkanam. Prevent sleep interruptions. Ensure early and safe mobility. The same with ambulatory care outpatient also. The same framework can be applied. The benefits are that you reduce the unwanted ICU care, you reduce the days in hospital, you reduce falls, you reduce pressure sores, you reduce venous thromboembolia, you reduce delirium. You screen for delirium and you identify delirium and you decrease delirium and you reduce adverse drug events. The NMC is also in action. You might have seen this in the CBME, and geriatrics has about 22 competencies under medicine, out of which about 21 are the core competencies. So delirium, mobility, continence, nutrition, pain, polypharmacy, social engagement, loneliness. 5 areas of geriatrics that matters most: mind, mobility, medication, and multi-complexity. It would be a nice idea to have this in your chart, irrespective of where the patient is admitted. So this 75-year-old gentleman has, what matters most to him now is to get home to his cat. And the Pucha Vidal Ottakan. So mind, he has got delirium, he has got minimal cognitive impairment, he has got a vascular gait, he has got dyspraxia. So he has a problem with mobility. His drugs are metformin, aspirin, he has a BPI, and his multi-complexity is based on his diabetes, minimal cognitive impairment, osteoarthritis. So such a picture will give you a holistic approach to your patient than the hyponatremic encephalopathy that lies in the bed most often in our wards. Now, here is where Amala Geriatric Clinic becomes important. So it's not that a geriatric clinic will cater to all the patients above 60 years. That is not possible, and that is not worth also. So it's important that every one of us knows how to go about an older patient or geriatric care. So where will you require help for consultations? Patients who have multiple specialists for treatment, polypharmacy, taking 5 or more regular medications, patients having decline in memory or mobility, recent decreased mobility, which makes them unable to function on their own, patients with delirium, because delirium might be one which might unmask the underlying dementia. So a patient who has present with delirium now may be having underlying dementia, which has to be inquired into. Patient with falls. So whenever somebody comes with a fall, if he has a fractured neck of femur, yes, fix the femur, but identify why he fell. Otherwise, he will go home and fall again and come back with the fracture either on the same side or on the opposite side. So fracture secondary to fall, or anyone above 60 years who wishes to have a wellness assessment done. So Amala Geriatric Clinic is part of the Division of Geriatrics and Gerontology under Department of Medicine. Above all, geriatrics requires a fondness for old people. It is not a specialty for those who are all business and who must move quickly to the next problem. Geriatric problems frequently have no solution, but the physician's attitude is his best therapeutic instrument. With it, he may disperse discipline, humor, seriousness, solicitude, reassurance, cajolery, and praise. Through listening to chatter, he may learn more about his patient than by direct questioning. The golden minute. The geriatrician must graft his humane instincts onto the hardy roots of gerontology, which embraces all the sciences. And you need not have MD geriatrics to be a geriatrician. You just need to have the attitude, have the patience, have the will to find out what matters to your patient to give good age-friendly care. Age-friendly Amala is not about the patient, it's about you. Because what matters to them today will matter to you tomorrow. 10 things we said: don't rush, talk slowly and clearly in a normal tone, avoid background noise. Now, when you listen to such chatter, you usually get such, this was a WhatsApp forward that most of you would have seen, and you come across such witty comments from the patients. Why not, young man? You look healthy enough. So the process of age-friendly Amala has begun. The medical student who goes to the ward tomorrow, taking the history of an 85-year-old Annamma who has come with fever, cough of 3 days duration and history of fall, and he starts thinking of why this patient fell, then going behind the VF and VR or the increased VF and VR on the bronchial breath sound of pneumonia, which is never going to get in a lower respiratory tract infection at unless it is a lobar pneumonia. So the process has begun. If the orthopedics intern who takes duty tonight identifies the irrelevant talk of Choshama, who is a fracture neck of femur patient, as delirium, then that this patient has some psychiatric problem. And the process has begun. The consultant in a random OP tomorrow who finds that this patient has about 5 to 6 prescriptions from different specialists, thinks that this patient requires a medicine reconciliation, then he has become part of age-friendly Amala. This is what it meant. 5 M's of geriatrics: matters most, mind, mobility, medications, and multi-complexity. Thank you. Be part of the team. Is the aging, active aging. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anish, for the excellent reorientation of ourselves. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions. All of us are engaging geriatric patients in our care, and it is high time that we start reorienting ourselves, reorienting the students, reorienting the CMC staff, the nursing staff, security staff, everybody. So, comments and opinions from others, sir. George, sir.
Thank you, Anish, first of all, for the excellent talk. And actually, I was really enlightened into many new facets of caring for the elderly, which I have never thought of so far, to be very frank. Thank you for the excellent message. Now, you mentioned very correctly that this is a multidisciplinary effort. And one thing that I want to stress is the family members are very important. I have found 2 groups of people who give overcare to the elderly even at the point of death, and they never accept the impending death as a fact. And they even quarrel and shout with the caring physician. Second is persons relatives, maybe because of their social or economic conditions, they don't take care. So the family members, the caretakers, should be also involved in the multidisciplinary team so that a better care can be. That's all what I thank you. Thank you so much.
Anybody else would like to comment?
Thank you, Anish. That was just a fabulous talk. I think it was really very good. I don't have so much of it. It was really enlightening. And I think it is a really good thing that the last few slides were the really important thing, that where it should start from is, I think it should start from us. Geriatric care is not about knowing the problems of the patient, but knowing we should know how to deal with the elderly. Thank you very much, Anish, once again.
Thank you, sir.
I think Srija has got a very good comment in the chat box also. And Srija, Dr. Vinod Kumar and Dr. Robert Panakil sir has got good comments about the excellent talk. I think anybody who couldn't attend today's meeting, it was a real mess for them.
Sure.
Robert sir, any comments? Savitri madam, Sushila madam.
ഒരു കമന്റ് കൂടെ ഞാൻ ജസ്റ്റ് ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു മേക്ക്. ഇതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് ഇങ്ങനെ വായിച്ചപ്പോൾ ഏജിങ് കൺട്രിയുടെ ഒരു ഡെഫിനിഷൻ ഉണ്ട് അല്ലേ അനീഷ്? 7% ഓഫ് ദി പോപ്പുലേഷൻ എബോവ് 60 ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എൻ ഏജിങ് കൺട്രി. ഇന്ത്യ 2011 ഏജിങ് കൺട്രി ആയി. 8% ആയിരുന്നു 2011. ഇപ്പൊ എത്രയാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ അനീഷ്.
ഇപ്പോഴും സെൻസസ് അന്നത്തെ ആണല്ലോ, അപ്പൊ ഇപ്പോഴും 8% തന്നെ നിൽക്കുകയാണ്. പക്ഷെ കൂടുതലായിട്ടുണ്ടാവും.
ഏജിങ് കൺട്രി, ഇന്ത്യ ഒരു ഏജിങ് കൺട്രി. നമുക്ക് തന്നെ കണ്ടാ അറിയാം. IP patients എല്ലാവരും above the age of 60-70 ആണ്. So it's high time we reorient ourselves.
One thing I would like to comment is Anish, നമ്മള് എൽഡർലി ഒരു പ്രോബ്ലം ഉള്ള ഒരു പേഷ്യന്റിനെ കെയർ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ പലപ്പോഴും അവരുടെ റിലേറ്റീവ്ലി ഹെൽത്തി ആയിട്ടുള്ള സ്പൗസിനെ നെഗ്ലക്ട് ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്, ഫാമിലി ആൻഡ് ദ ഡോക്ടർ. സോ അതിനെപ്പറ്റി എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ?
Caregiver stress is also an important pillar of geriatric care. So that's when this നമ്മൾ ഈ വാട്ട് മാറ്റേഴ്സ് എന്നുള്ള ഡിസ്കഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ വരുമ്പോ കെയർ ഗിവറും അതിന്റെ ഒരു ഭാഗമാവും. പിന്നെ കെയർ ഗിവർ സ്ട്രെസ് ഒരു ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ഫാക്ടർ തന്നെയാണ്. അതും ഇതിലൊപ്പം നോക്കേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഇപ്പം ദിസ് ഇസ് ജസ്റ്റ് ആൻ ഔട്ട്ലൈൻ. പിന്നെ ഞാൻ പറയല്ലോ, നമ്മളിത് കേൾക്കുമ്പോ ഇതെല്ലാം ഫിലോസഫി ആണെങ്കിലും ദിസ് വി ആർ ഗോയിങ് ടു ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റ് അറ്റ് അവർ ഹോസ്പിറ്റൽ. ഹൗ എന്നുള്ളത് ഒരു ചോദ്യമാണ്. ദാറ്റ് വിൽ ഡിപ്പെൻഡ് ഓൺ ഹൗ ഇറ്റ് വർക്ക്സ് ഔട്ട്. ഇറ്റ്സ് ആൻ ഇവോൾവിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്. ആ സമയത്ത് കെയർ ഗിവറും ഒരു ഫാക്ടർ തന്നെയാണ്. കാരണം ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു ഡിമെൻഷ്യ പേഷ്യന്റ് ആൻഡ് വി ഹാവ് സോ കെയർ ഗിവർ ഇപ്പം പ്രൊഫഷണൽ കെയർ ഗിവർ ആവാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇൻഫോർമൽ കെയർ ഗിവർ. ഇപ്പൊ ഈ വൈഫിന്റെ കാര്യം മാഡം പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ. സോ വി വിൽ ഓൾസോ അഡ്രസ് ആ സോഷ്യൽ ആസ്പെക്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ, നമ്മൾ ഈ കോംപ്രഹെൻസീവ് ജെറിയാട്രിക് സോഷ്യൽ ആസ്പെക്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ ഹു ഇസ് എ നോർമൽ കെയർ ഗിവർ എന്നുള്ളൊരു ചോദ്യമുണ്ട്. ആ കെയർ ഗിവറിനെയും അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്യണം, അവരുടെ ഹെൽത്തും അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്യണം. അത് ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ആണ്. ഇറ്റ്സ് എ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ്.
മാഡം പറഞ്ഞല്ലേ, ആന്റണി സാർ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, നമ്മള് ഇവിടെ അധികം പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്തില്ല. ബട്ട് പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ഹാവ് വർക്ക്ഡ് ഇൻ ദ വെസ്റ്റ് നോ. MRCP ഇതിലൊക്കെ ആണെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ എൽഡർലി പേഷ്യന്റ് ആകുമ്പോൾ ഹു ഇസ് ഗോയിങ് ടു ലുക്ക് ആഫ്റ്റർ ദം ഓൺ ഡിസ്ചാർജ് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ചെയ്യണം. എക്കണോമിക്സ് ഇസ് ഓൾസോ എൻ ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ഫാക്ടർ. അപ്പൊ ഒരുപാട് സൈക്കാട്രിക് ഡൊമൈൻ ഉണ്ട്, സോഷ്യൽ ഡൊമൈൻ ഉണ്ട്, ഫാമിലി ഡൊമൈൻ ഉണ്ട്, കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ഇന്റർപേഴ്സണൽ റിലേഷൻഷിപ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ദ സ്പൗസ് ആൻഡ് ദി പേഷ്യന്റ്, ചിൽഡ്രൻ ആൻഡ് ദ പേഷ്യന്റ്, ഇതെല്ലാം വരും. നമ്മൾ മാത്രമല്ല. അപ്പൊ ഒരു മൾട്ടി ഡിസിപ്ലിനറി എല്ലാ ആസ്പെക്റ്റും കവർ ചെയ്താലേ ഒരു കോംപ്രിഹെൻസീവ് ജെറിയാട്രിക് കെയർ ആവുള്ളൂ. ട്രൂ. ഹൗ ഫാർ വി ക്യാൻ അറ്റൈൻ ഡിപ്പെൻഡ്സ് അപ്പോൺ ദി ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്. നമ്മൾ മാത്രമല്ല, എല്ലാവരുടെയും ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, ഫാമിലി ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, സ്പൗസിന്റെ ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, കെയർ ഗീവർ, എല്ലാവരും.
ഈ ഡിസിഷൻ മേക്കിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്സിൽ, എസ്പെഷ്യലി ജെറിയാട്രിക്സില് ഡിസിഷൻ മേക്കിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്സില് പേഷ്യൻസ് സ്പെസിഫിക് ആയിട്ട് എനിക്ക് ഇത് മതി, ബട്ട് ദർ ഇസ് എ കോൺഫ്ലിക്ട് വിത്ത് കെയർ ടേക്കറിന്റെ ഡിസിഷൻ, അങ്ങനത്തെ സിറ്റുവേഷൻസ് വരാറുണ്ടോ? അലൈൻ ടു നമ്മൾ പേഷ്യന്റ് ഡിസിഷന് പ്രയോറിറ്റി കൊടുക്കും നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു സോഷ്യൽ സെറ്റപ്പില്.
അല്ല, ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ ഒരു ടോക്കിന്റെ ഒരു തമാശ എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാല്, ഐ ഹാവ് ഓൾസോ സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ് ഡൂയിങ് ദീസ് തിങ്സ് ഓൺലി നൗ. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ പറയുമ്പം എക്സ്പീരിയൻസസ് ഇൻ ഹൗ യു ഹാവ് ഡൺ ദിസ് എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഐ ആം ഓൾസോ ഇൻഎക്സ്പീരിയൻസ്ഡ് എന്ന് വേണം പറയാൻ. അതാണ് ഈ ഒരു പ്രോസസ്സിന്റെ ഒരു. അപ്പം ഐ ഹാവ് നോട്ട്, ഇതൊക്കെ വെസ്റ്റേൺ ഇതിലുള്ള ഒരു ഫ്രെയിം വർക്ക് ആണ്. നൗ ഹൗ വി ക്യാൻ ഡു ഇറ്റ് ബെസ്റ്റ് ഹിയർ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ചിന്തിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഒബ്വിയസ്ലി കോൺഫ്ലിക്റ്റ്, കാരണം അവർക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു പേഷ്യന്റിന്റെ ഭാഗത്താണ് ഇനിയിപ്പോ തമാശ ഉണ്ടാകാൻ പോകുന്നത്. ഡോക്ടർ എന്താ ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ചോദിക്കുന്നത്? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താണ് വേണ്ടത്? നമ്മളൊരിക്കലും ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവില്ല. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താണ് സന്തോഷം തരുന്നത്? സോ ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ഗോയിങ് ടു ബി എ ചേഞ്ച്, ബട്ട് that does make a change when you give that question to a patient, in our country, it is not heard of. So there are going to be conflicts. These are just guidelines. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ ആ സമയത്ത് അതെങ്ങനെ ഡീൽ ചെയ്യുന്നു, ടൈമാണ് ഇവിടെ ഒരു വലിയ ഫാക്ടർ ആകാൻ പോകുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് വർത്ത് ഇറ്റ്. കാരണം നാളെ ഒരു 30-40 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ആശുപത്രി കിടക്കുമ്പോ അന്ന് എന്നെ നോക്കുന്ന ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് ഏജ് ഫ്രണ്ട്ലി ആവണം എന്ന് എനിക്കുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇന്നേ ഞാൻ അതിനുള്ള പണി തുടങ്ങണം. സോ ഇറ്റ്സ് എൻ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ് ദാറ്റ് വി മേക്ക് ഫോർ ourselves.
ഡോക്ടർ അനീഷ്, ഡോക്ടർ റോബർട്ടാണ്. നമ്മൾ ഒരു 4 കൺസൾട്ടന്റ് കാണുന്ന പേഷ്യന്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ബെറ്റർ ടു ബി മാനേജ് വിത്ത് ജീരിയാട്രിസ്റ്റ്, അങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കും ദാറ്റ് വിൽ ബെറ്റർ?
സർ ഇറ്റ് ഡിപ്പെൻസ്. കാരണം അവിടെയും പേഷ്യന്റ് പ്രയോറിറ്റി ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ആണ്, പേഷ്യന്റ് പ്രിഫറൻസ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ആണ്. പേഷ്യന്റ് ചില ഡോക്ടേഴ്സിനെ തന്നെ കാണണമെന്നുണ്ടാവാം. അപ്പം ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എൻ ഇന്റർ ഡിസിപ്ലിനറി തിങ്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഇപ്പം യു ഹാവ് ദീസ് ഓപ്ഷൻസ്. ഇപ്പം ദിസ് പേഷ്യന്റ് മൈ ബി ടേക്കിംഗ്, ഇപ്പം മെഡിക്കേഷന്റെ ഭാഗം എടുത്താലും അപ്പൊ ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടെ ഒരുമിച്ച് കൊണ്ടുവന്നാലോ ആ ഒരു ഡിസ്കഷനിലാണ് അത് പോകുന്നത്. പിന്നെ ഓൾവേസ് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി, അതാണ് ഈ ജെറിയാട്രീഷ്യൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മുടെ ഇവിടെ ഇപ്പൊ ലെസ് ദാൻ 10 seats ആണ്ടേ ഉള്ളൂ. പക്ഷെ അങ്ങനെ ജെറിയാട്രീഷ്യൻ ഉണ്ടായത് കൊണ്ട് കാര്യം ഉണ്ടാവുമെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നില്ല. It would be more ideal if everyone knows how these principles of geriatrics and പക്ഷേ as are told, ഇത്രയും മൾട്ടി കോംപ്ലക്സ് ഉള്ള ഒരാളാണെങ്കിൽ അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടെ കോർഡിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഒരാളുണ്ടാവും. അയാളെ ജെറിയാട്രിക്സ് വിളിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അങ്ങനെ വിളിക്കാം. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ അമല ജെറിയാട്രിക് ക്ലിനിക് എന്ന് വിളിച്ചാൽ അങ്ങനെ വിളിക്കാം. ഇപ്പൊ ഡോക്ടർ അനീഷിനെ വിളിച്ചാൽ അങ്ങനെ വിളിക്കാം. പക്ഷെ അതെല്ലാം കൂടെ കോർഡിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഒരാൾ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത് എപ്പോഴും പേഷ്യന്റ് നല്ലതായിരിക്കും. ഇന്ന് തന്നെ ഒരു പേഷ്യന്റ് സംഭവിച്ചു. 2 വർഷം മുന്നത്തെ പ്രിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ ഇപ്പൊ കഴിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. ആദ്യം കാർഡിയോളജിന്റെ അടുത്ത് പോയി, ഹൈപ്പർ കലീമിയ കാരണം ARB നിർത്തിയതായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ നെഫ്രോളജിന്റെ അടുത്ത് പോയപ്പോൾ അത് അവിടെ പറഞ്ഞില്ല. ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള പല പല പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ. പിന്നെ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ നമുക്ക് ഭ്രാന്താവും. കാരണം പേഷ്യന്റിനോട് അവർക്ക് അറിയില്ല. അപ്പം ഇറ്റ് വിൽ റിക്വയർ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് പേഷ്യൻസ് ഫ്രം ദ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദ ഡോക്ടർ ആസ് വെൽ.
അതെ, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കുറെ പേര് ഗ്യാസ്ട്രോപ്പിൽ വരുന്നുണ്ട്.
എല്ലാ ഓപ്പിലും വരുന്നുണ്ട്. അനീഷ് പറഞ്ഞ ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഓരോ ഡോക്ടറും നമ്മുടെ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് നോക്കേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. ഈ മെഡിക്കേഷൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആവശ്യമുണ്ടോ ഇല്ലയോ എന്നുള്ളത് അറ്റ് എവരി കൺസൾട്ടേഷൻ റൂം എവരി ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് ആലോചിച്ചാലേ നടക്കുള്ളൂ. ഒരാൾ മാത്രം നടക്കില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അബ്സല്യൂട്ട്ലി ട്രൂ.
And we will have this framework worked out. പിന്നെ വിത്ത് എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് എല്ലാവരും അറിയും ഇതെങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യാം. ആൻഡ് എവരി വൺ വിൽ ബി ഇൻവോൾവ്. ആക്ച്വലി മെഡിക്കൽ സ്റ്റുഡൻസും നഴ്സിംഗ് സ്റ്റുഡൻസും എല്ലാവരെയും ഇൻവൈറ്റഡ് ആയിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ ആസ് യൂഷ്വൽ നമ്മൾ 25 പേരെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നുള്ളൂ ഇന്ന് ടോക്കിന്. ബിക്കോസ് ദേ ആർ ഓൾസോ ഗോയിങ് ടു ബി പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ്. ഇപ്പൊ ടോക്ക് കേട്ടോ ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ളത് പ്രശ്നമല്ല. They are going to be trained. We have started a course for nursing students on geriatric care, wherein they will be taught how to screen for polypharmacy. അപ്പൊ ആ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് പാടി പോകുമ്പോഴും അവരുടെ ഒരു ദിവസത്തെ ടാസ്ക് ചിലപ്പോൾ ഇത് നോക്കലായിരിക്കാം. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ we will have things worked out. It's just 3 months old. 3 മാസം കൊണ്ട് ഇന്നൊരു ടോക്ക് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റിയെങ്കിൽ definitely we have time at our hands, because it's something which is over and above the usual care that we give. It doesn't replace the consultants. It doesn't replace the specialist. It helps the specialist in giving better care to his patient.
മനുഷ്യ ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടെ പറഞ്ഞോട്ടെ, കേൾക്കാവോ?
കേൾക്കാം സർ, പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
ഇപ്പം ആസ് ഇൻ മെനി അതർ ഫേസസ്, ഈ എൽഡർലി പീപ്പിൾ ദേ ആർ ബിക്കമിങ് കോൺഷ്യസ് ഓഫ് rights to live healthy life. They have got a right to live. അതും അവർ പതുക്കെ കോൺഷ്യസ് ആയി വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ ഒരു ചെറിയ സംഭവം പറയാം. അതായത് കുറച്ച് നാൾ മുമ്പ് എന്റെ വീടിനടുത്തുള്ള ഒരു 95-year-old man, he had a fall and had a fracture neck of femur. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ചെല്ലുന്നതിന്റെ തലേ ദിവസമാണ് അയാൾ അവിടെ വീണത്. അപ്പം ഡോക്ടർ സജസ്റ്റഡ് either you can be in plaster cast for 6 weeks with pain or you can undergo surgery. അപ്പൊ അത് കണ്ട ഈ അപ്പച്ചനെ കാണാൻ ഞാൻ അവിടെ ചെന്നപ്പോ പുള്ളി എന്നോട് ചോദിച്ചു, 95-year-old എന്നോട് ചോദിച്ചു, മോനെ ഈ ഓപ്പറേഷൻ ചെയ്താൽ ഭാവിയിലേക്ക് ദോഷം വല്ലതും വരുമോന്ന്. So that is their attitude now. So they are conscious of their right to live as healthy elderly.
അനീഷ്, ഒരു കാര്യം ചോദിച്ചോട്ടെ. ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു റിസോഴ്സ് കൺസ്ട്രെയിൻ ഇല്ലാത്തൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ആണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അനീഷിന് ഒരു 5 അസോസിയേറ്റ്സിനെ തരാന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ വാട്ട് വുഡ് ബി ദ സ്പെഷ്യാലിറ്റീസ്? ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് എന്നുള്ളത് മാത്രമല്ല, വാട്ട് വുഡ് ബി ദ അതർ ഏരിയാസ് പേഴ്സണൽ ദാറ്റ് യു വുഡ് ചൂസ്? ഡയറ്റീഷ്യനോ ഫാർമസിസ്റ്റോ ഫിസിയോതെറാപ്പിസ്റ്റോ അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ആരൊക്കെയായിരിക്കും ചൂസ് ചെയ്യാം? ഏറ്റവും അത്യാവശ്യം വേണ്ടത് ആരൊക്കെയാണെന്നുള്ളത് ഇതിന് സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ?
സാർ അതായത് ഇപ്പം വി ആർ പ്ലാനിങ് ടു മേക്ക് എൻ അക്യൂട്ട് കെയർ ഫോർ എൽഡേഴ്സ് യൂണിറ്റ്. അക്യൂട്ട് കെയർ ഫോർ എൽഡേഴ്സ് യൂണിറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ അത് ആസ് എ സ്റ്റാർട്ട്. അപ്പൊ അതിന്റെ പാർട്ട് ഇപ്പൊ മൾട്ടി ഡിസിപ്ലിനറി ടീം ഇതെല്ലാം വെസ്റ്റേൺ കൺട്രീസിലുള്ളതാണ്. അതിൽ വരുന്ന ഡയറ്റീഷ്യൻ ഉണ്ടാവും, സോഷ്യൽ വർക്കർ. അപ്പം എവറി ആസ്പെക്ട് ഈ കോംപ്രഹെൻസീവ് ജെറിയാട്രിക് അസിസ്റ്റന്റ് ഓരോ ആസ്പെക്ട് ഓരോ ആൾക്കാരായിരിക്കും നോക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം ഒരാൾ മാത്രം ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടെ ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാണല്ലോ അയാളുടെ കിളി പോകും. കാരണം നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടേതായ ജീവിത പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടെന്നുള്ളത് സത്യമാണ്. അങ്ങനെ ഇരുന്ന് ഒരു 10 പേരുടെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഒരു ദിവസം കേട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് അപ്പം ഇറ്റ്സ് അബൌട്ട് ഹാവിങ് എ ടീം. പക്ഷെ അതിന്റെ ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ ആസ്പെക്ട്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പം ഐഡിയൽ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ആണ് സാർ ചോദിക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ സോഷ്യൽ വർക്കർ, ഫിസിയോതെറാപ്പിസ്റ്റ്, ഡയറ്റീഷ്യൻ, ഫാർമസിസ്റ്റ്. നമ്മുടെ ഇവിടെ ഫാർമസിസ്റ്റ് ആർ നോട്ട് മച്ച് ഇൻവോൾവ് ഇൻ ദ ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സൈഡ്. പക്ഷെ വെളിയിലൊക്കെ ആണെങ്കിൽ ഫാർമസിസ്റ്റ് ആണ് ആ പ്രിസ്ക്രൈബിങ് പൊട്ടൻഷ്യലിന്റെ ആ ഭാഗം എല്ലാം നോക്കുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ നമുക്ക് ഇപ്പോഴും ഒരു വലിയ വർക്ക് ഫോഴ്സ് ആക്ച്വലി ഹോസ്പിറ്റലിനകത്തുണ്ട്. ഇത്രയും ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, അവർ നോക്കുന്ന പേഷ്യന്റ് ആണ്. അവർക്ക് ഇതിനെപ്പറ്റി ഒരു അവയർനെസ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ ദാറ്റ് വിൽ മേക്ക് എ ഡിഫറൻസ് എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. റാദർ ദാൻ ഗോയിങ് ഫോർ ദ ഐഡിയൽ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ. കാരണം ഐഡിയൽ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ നോക്കി നിന്നാൽ ചിലപ്പോ ഞാൻ വയസ്സാകുമ്പോഴായിരിക്കും ഇവിടെ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സെറ്റപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാകാൻ പോകുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ഐഡിയൽ സിറ്റുവേഷൻ മേ നോട്ട് വർക്ക് ആസ് വെൽ ബിക്കോസ് അവർക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഓറിയന്റേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവണമെന്നില്ല ജെറിയാട്രിക്സിനോട്. ഒരു കുറെ സോഷ്യൽ വർക്കറിനെ, ഡയറ്റീഷ്യനെ, ഫിസിയോതെറാപ്പിസ്റ്റ് ഒരുമിച്ച് കൊണ്ടിരുത്തിയിട്ട് ഞാൻ എന്റെ നടുക്കിരുന്നാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ഗോയിങ് ടു വർക്ക്. അപ്പൊ എല്ലാവരും ഒരേ ലാംഗ്വേജ് സംസാരിക്കുകയും ഒരേ രീതിയിൽ ഇത് കാണുകയും അപ്പൊ അതിന് ദാറ്റ് വിൽ. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ വർക്ക്ഷോപ്സ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. പോസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ്സ് ഞാൻ ഉന്നമിടുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ അവരൊക്കെയാണ്. പോസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ്സ്, നഴ്സിംഗ് സ്റ്റുഡൻസ്, ബിക്കോസ് ദേ ആർ ദ വൺസ് ഹു ആർ ഗോയിങ് ടു സീ ദ പേഷ്യൻസ് ഇൻ ദ വാർ ഫ്രണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ആദ്യം മരുന്ന് എഴുതുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ അവന് ചിന്തിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ദാറ്റ് വിൽ മേക്ക് എ ഡിഫറൻസ്. അപ്പൊ അതൊരു ഓർത്തോപീഡീഷ്യൻ ആണെങ്കിലും ഒരു സർജൻ ആണെങ്കിലും ഒരു സൈക്കാട്രിസ്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിലും മെഡിസിൻ മാത്രമല്ല ആക്ച്വലി. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു രസം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. പിന്നെ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, ഐ എം ഓൾസോ ലേണിംഗ് ഹൗ ടു ഡു ദിസ്.
ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ് ചേഞ്ച് ആണ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്. അതാണ്, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ദ മോസ്റ്റ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ്. നമുക്ക് വൈൻഡ് അപ്പ് ചെയ്യാം അല്ലേ സുനു?
Yes, sir. Let's wind up.
I think we congratulate Anish for enlightening us and creating this discussion, and hope that will change at least some aspects of our own attitude. Thank you, Anish. Thank you, Sunu.
Thank you all. Thanks, Anish.